Muy buenas amigos de Ready para Exportar. Hoy volvemos a Guyana para ayudar a aquellas personas que están haciendo negocio con Guyana, que van a hacer negocio con Guyana, que quieren invertir en Guyana. Y vamos a hablar con un abogado con mucha experiencia, no solo en Guyana, sino en todos los mercados de CARICOM, Teni Housty. Tiene muchos años en Guyana y ya ha apoyado a empresas dominicanas haciendo negocio en Guyana. Así que welcome, Teni. As you know, there are many Dominican companies that are looking at Guyana as a market for investment, for doing business there, but it's a market that Dominican companies are not as familiar with. If I want to do business in Guyana, do I have to register as a company in Guyana?
Good morning. Thank you very much. Mucho gusto. Well, buenos dias a todos. To respond to your first question, no, you do not. As a first, you do not have to register to do business in Guyana. It depends on how much business you want to do in Guyana. That will determine whether you need to register or not. So for example, if you only have one contract in Guyana, there's no need to register to do that contract or perform that contract in Guyana. But if you have more, then it triggers a requirement for registration in the law.
But there are certain sectors that requires that you establish in Guyana, right? That you have a local partner to do business.
Yes. So primarily the oil and gas sector requires you to have a local partner in Guyana. And because you are likely to have more than one contract in Guyana, you can either register your Dominican Republic company in Guyana as an external company or abrir una nueva empresa aquí en Guyana para continuar o conducir tus actividades aquí.
Muy bien, es español. And what kind of protection does Guyana gives to foreign investor if people want to come there? And as there are companies in different sectors, including construction, including agriculture, what protections the foreign investment gets in Guyana?
Depends on the scale of the investment and the sector in which the investment is in. The important protection deals with actually setting up a company here in Guyana because you're able to insulate your liability in Guyana and not expose your external partners or your external enterprises to liabilities here in Guyana. That is the main protection you get.
There are also incentives that the government offer for different sectors. Do they have to register to receive those?
Yes. So Guyana has always had a sector, an investment portfolio to attract investment in certain sectors. And through that investment, you get certain fiscal benefit. We have an investment act that would set some of those requirements out. And there's also an institution called Go Invest that persons coming into Guyana can go to. And from that, they're able to get an idea of what the benefits are. Some of the benefits include duty-free concessions, depending on the sector in which you're operating on, tax holidays for certain types of taxes, and those are the main incentives that create or attract persons here. Also, you're able to move foreign exchange a little easier depending on the sector in which you're investing in. Over time, the sectors would have expanded, and it all depends on what sector you're interested in to enter the Guyana market.
One of the things that the people that promote Guyana says that Guyana can be your regional entry point to the rest of the region. So if I'm registering a company in Guyana, can I do business in the rest of CARICOM?
Depends on how you choose to do. Yes, you can. It depends on how you choose to conduct that business in the other countries in CARICOM. A single Guyana company will not necessarily be able to have, that company will still have to go into other countries to be either incorporated or registered or recognized. But the benefits come with the type of trade between the enterprises. So depending if they're goods, you may be able to benefit from rules of origin amongst CARICOM countries if the goods emerge from Guyana. There's also taxation benefits because you may be able to take advantage of a double taxation arrangement amongst the countries which have the taxes that you pay here in Guyana recognized over there, or taxes, external taxes paid in another CARICOM country recognized in Guyana. Similarly, if the movement of staff and employees amongst or between countries, payments to the National Insurance Scheme and those other authorities can be recognized amongst or between the enterprises across borders. Similarly, employment contracts can be recognized and shift amongst the various or between the various enterprises.
A lot of the companies that are starting to do business in Guyana have a potential representative or distributor. What kind of protection do they need to consider when they already have, let's say, a potential partner already there? Do they need to drop a contract? How do they do due diligence? What do they need to do?
The first thing that I would suggest is to make sure that your arrangement with in-country person is in writing. If it has not been, don't change it. You don't want to disrupt or break up a partnership that has been working for some time. If that does not exist, you make sure that the local distributor hasn't done or taken any steps to limit your ability to enter the Guyana market. So for example, you'll check to make sure that the local distributor has not registered your company or a name similar to your company. You'll check to make sure that that local distributor hasn't, in the case of trademarks, registered your trademark under their name, and they would have honored the principle or the basis upon which the distributorship would have been entered upon. What, from a business perspective, it becomes phased type of interaction. The distributor may want to know when you're coming, how you're coming, where you're coming. They may say, look, all right, they may want to segment the market over time, but a lot would turn on what type of arrangement, if any, you have with the local distributor or the local representative.
Now that you mentioned protection and company names, what about protection of intellectual property?
Well, the protection of intellectual property in Guyana falls into, well, it's propiedad intelectual, I see in Espanol, falls into different categories. The main ones that businesses from the Dominican Republic would be concerned about would be trademarks. So trademarks here have a register based on the different classes of goods, not services. We don't recognize service marks directly here in Guyana. So you have to make sure that your marks have not been registered or threatened by anyone. In terms of trademarks, our copyright system is not a register system. So depending on the categories of works that your copyright material falls into, you'll have to see who, if anyone, is pirating or reproducing your works without your consent. Guyana is not a patent-rich inventing country, so it would be to see where patents that are from the Dominican Republic are part of our patent registry. And the one thing that we have put in with the new would be our geographical indications protections. But that's really specific to Guyana. And if one thinks of trade secrets, the strategy with trade secrets is to keep it secret, so you will never know who is doing it, or you should never know who's doing it.
You have mentioned before to me how quick it is to register a company. That's one of the concerns when you're doing business. If I go into the route of registering a company, or like you said, if you do business more than once, you have to register. How cumbersome or easy it is to do that?
So if you want to start a new business here in Guyana, there are certain requirements that you must meet. Your preparation for doing business therefore becomes important. One of the things that you must have are two important. A name that is not already part of the register of companies, and it's becoming increasingly tricky, but there are ways around that. So the first thing you have to do is to check the name. If the name is available, the next thing is the preparation of the incorporation document. We have ways of accelerating that particular process. So we can prepare the documents as a firm at Fraser and Housty Attorneys-at-Law. We can prepare those documents rather quickly. Once they are prepared, the requirement right now for incorporation is original signature. So once we get those documents prepared with original signatures, the process of the registry takes at maximum, or should take at maximum, provided the documents are in order, 7 days. What tends to take the long time is to get back those original documents from clients once we check the name. So a name search, registry responds within 24 hours to a name search. I must commend the registry in Guyana for their efficiency. because when we write and ask if a name is available, we get an immediate response because they check it in the system. So within 24 hours, we know the name is available. If, for example, the clients are here in Guyana, we can have those documents ready for the clients to sign with an available name in a day. Once that is done and we have the identification documents, we can file the company with the registry, and that process takes approximately 7 days. The registry has gone a very far way in accelerating the pace of registrations. We've had clients who've come into Guyana on a Sunday. We've met them on a Sunday. We get the name approved on a Monday. We file on that. If you get the approval on Monday morning, the clients are here. We file the Monday afternoon, and by the next week, you will have a company documents in your hand. And depending on how favorable the registry looks at us, they'll say, okay, collect it on Friday. So we can do it in that very accelerated time because we understand the requirements. But the hardest part is getting the documents back, the original signatures back from the client.
Unfortunately, the time has run out, but I think the main message is you have to do your homework, but there are ways with people like Teni guiding them to do it quicker and easier than if you go without knowing the market.
The other element, if I may add, is the embassy. La Embajada de la República Dominicana está aquí en Guyana. Es una importante socio partner in the process of entering the market here in Guyana.
Yeah, definitely. Ambassador and his team are doing a very good job. Well, thank you, Teni Housty. So search him online and go consult Teni if you are doing business in Guyana. Thank you, and a ustedes los esperamos la próxima semana en Ready para Exportar y en Metrópolis.